Your player's party has just started a new arc. Whether they found a fragment of an ancient map, were accused of an assassination they didn't commit, or just had some unfinished business from the previous arc, they are in a new environment with a new set of objectives. What they need is someone to talk to who knows the area. A mainstay of the genre is the benevolent sage archetype, or a knowledgeable NPC from whom the players can get some information or maybe some help connecting the dots. If the arc is set in a pastoral environment, this could be the old hermit that lives across the fen, or in the wilderness, maybe a crusty druid who tends to the willow trees. In this video, though, we are going to assume that our players have found themselves in a densely populated capital city. If this is the case, a great benevolent sage character could be the court wizard. But let's say the powers that be in this city and the PCs are misaligned. In a mystery adventure, your players could be trying to uncover a secret cult or cabal that has infiltrated the city's government. Or, in a game full of intrigue, your players could be politicking their way in and around the various factions of the city, trying to replace the one in charge with one that's more sympathetic to their goals. If you're running an adventure like this, you might decide that a benevolent sage doesn't really fit your tone. Your party needs a knowledgeable NPC who is willing to work against or outright betray the reigning political entities in the city. Or, as I will call the character archetype in this video, the Informant. Today we're going to take a look at this kind of NPC and see what we can learn about using them in our games. First, we should establish some differences between the Informant and that usual benevolent sage archetype that is so prevalent in D&D. The benevolent sage archetype is good at heart, powerful, and almost always willing to help the players, though sometimes for a nominal fee. In some games, this NPC is just a vehicle for your players to identify magic items or to get the hook for the next adventure. In other games, your players might become very close friends with the sage, or, if they're anything like my players, enter into a business venture with them. All in all, they help the players whenever they have time because they want to, and because it's the right thing to do. The Informant is very different from the sage. This character is not aligned with the ruling institution, but they exist within it or adjacent to it. A position which affords them the know-how and the opportunity to work against that system. This NPC is characterized by what I'll call a push-pull. Push being reasons to distance themselves from the PCs, pull being their incentives to help them. But regardless of their push-pull factors, Informants are not going to tell the party everything all at once. Your players are going to have to work for every bit of information that they get from this character. Each Informant will have different push and pull factors, but once your players are aware of them, the way forward becomes pretty clear. Appease the Informant, gain the information. This kind of character is very prevalent in media, especially in spy thrillers, mysteries, and political intrigue. I'm going to give some examples of Informants in 3 different films: JFK, Spotlight, and All the President's Men. And then for each example, we're going to deconstruct the characters a little bit so we can learn from them. Before that though, I do have to give a couple of content warnings. This is not necessarily for the clips I'll show in this video or anything I'll talk about, but more for if you decide to go watch these films for yourself. First, all 3 films I reference are rated R and have a great deal of profanity. Second, the film JFK should be watched with some context. It is an epic film in length and in gravity that gives us some amazing performances, but, and I quote, "as history it is dubious." So, great movie, but take the history with a few grains of salt. I think this might be only in the director's cut, but it does contain real-world footage of the JFK assassination, which is obviously incredibly graphic. There's none of that in this video, though. Another film I reference is Spotlight. It is an incredible picture about a truly horrifying subject. If you're unfamiliar, it deals with the systematic covering up by the Catholic Church of priests' crimes against children. It is a story that is as important to know as it is hard to watch. Again, I won't be touching on these topics in this video. All three films are based on or around real events, but we are not focused on history. We are going to focus on the dramatization constructed by the writers, as well as the performance by the actors. Our goal is to understand what makes these characters compelling, and then use those lessons in our writing. Now on to the examples. We're going to be going over one each of a lawful, a chaotic, and a neutral character. Our first example is Mr. X in Oliver Stone's JFK. Portrayed by Donald Sutherland, Mr. X is only on screen for like 10 minutes, but in that time he gives us everything we could possibly want. This character is what I'll call the Disillusioned Officer.
I was a soldier, Mr. Garrison. 2 wars. I was one of those secret guys in the Pentagon that supplies the military hardware, the planes, bullets, rifles, for what we call black operations. Black ops.
The Disillusioned Officer is a lawful individual, deeply ingrained and probably high-ranking in the system.
The organizing principle of any society, Mr. Garrison, is for war. The authority of the state over its people resides in its war powers.
And there it is. We are given, in plain language, this character's view of how things work.
We were in Vietnam in '54, Indonesia '58, Tibet '59, got the Dalai Lama out. We were good. Very good.
He is talking about black ops on foreign soil, like you or I might talk about a party in college. These were the good old days. But then, something changed.
Why was I, the chief of special ops, selected to travel to the South Pole at that time to do a job that any number of others could have done? And I wondered if it could have been because one of my routine duties, if I had been in Washington, would have been to arrange for additional security in Texas. So I decided to check it out. And sure enough, I found out that someone had told the 112th Military Intelligence Group at 4th Army Headquarters at Fort Sam Houston to stand down that day over the protests of the unit commander, Colonel Reich.
I believe it's a mistake.
This is significant because it is standard operating procedure, especially in a known hostile city like Dallas, to supplement the Secret Service. It was a violation of the most basic protection codes we have, and it is the best indication of a massive plot in Dallas.
The system that this character is so ingrained in is changing around them until eventually they no longer recognize it.
Well, I never thought things were the same after that. Vietnam started for real. There was an era of, I don't know, make-believe in the Pentagon and CIA. Those of us who'd been in secret ops since the beginning knew the Warren Commission was fiction. But there was something deeper, uglier.
They are experiencing the very human feeling of an institution that one holds dear, that they consider a faultless paragon, being sullied. Once the veneer of perfection has fallen, it's impossible to get back, especially for a hardline lawful character. Everything is black and white to this character. So when the establishment switches from one side to the other, what are they to do?
I got out in '64, resigned my commission.
So what about this character's push-pull? First, let's look at the push.
Testify.
No chance in hell. No, I'd be arrested and gagged, maybe sent to an institution, maybe worse, you too. I can give you the background. You have to find the foreground, the little things.
Along with a healthy dose of self-preservation, the Disillusioned Officer is not used to breaking the rules. They might not like what the system has become, but they're not a traitor. Even if this particular example has shown no qualms about interfering and working against any other government. Some unshakable ideals with a dash of cognitive dissonance can create an incredibly interesting character. Okay, so then why are they helping the protagonist? Let's take a look at the pull factor.
I don't have much of a case.
You don't have a choice anymore. You become a significant threat to the national security structure. Your only chance is to come up with a case. Something. Anything. Make arrests. Stir the shitstorm. Hope to reach a point of critical mass that'll start a chain reaction of people coming forward. Then the government will crack.
The PCs, even if they don't share the informant's values, are working against the current system. And the current system, to the disillusioned officer, is nothing but a thin facade, merely pretending to be the institution that they still believe in. And they want that facade to burn.
Remember, fundamentally, people are suckers for the truth. And the truth is on your side, Bubba. I just hope you get a break.
The next example we'll take a look at is Stanley Tucci's portrayal of Mitchell Garabedian in the film Spotlight. Garabedian is a lawyer who is bringing charges against the Boston Archdiocese, contemporaneous to the Spotlight investigation. He is an example of a character I'm going to call the Inquiline. Inquiline is a niche biology word for an animal that lives in another animal's living space. Possibly through camouflage, possibly through making sure that they are never a big enough problem to deserve fixing. In other words, they are not a part of the institution, but they know how to function within it. So, why are they here if they are surrounded by potential hostiles? There is usually some important thing which requires them to be where they are, and this operation is their number one priority. This is our chaotic informant.
So I'm trying to get some background information.
You're not recording this, are you?
No, I wouldn't do that without asking.
I can't show you the church documents if that's what you're after. They're under seal.
Off the bat, this character is incredibly mistrustful. They live surrounded by enemies and act accordingly. The Inquiline trusts no one until they are given good reason to. Remember, we're looking for push-pull. This is the first push.
Did you know that they tried to bring me up before the Massachusetts Board of Bar Overseers 3 times? They're watching me very closely.
The church?
Yeah, the church. Yeah. They'd like to get me disbarred. In fact, put that away. Put it away. Sure. I don't want you recording this in any way, shape, or form. Not on paper, not on tape, nothing. Sure. In fact, I probably shouldn't even be speaking to you. So.
The second push comes quickly on the heels of the first. This character has an important operation of their own. Even if the PCs can convince the informant of their trustworthiness, are they worth his time?
They're broke. They don't have any power. The Globe does. If we cover this story, everybody will hear about it.
The church thinks in centuries, Mr. Resendez. Do you think your paper has the resources to take that on?
Yeah, I do. But if you don't mind me asking, do you?
I can't talk to you right now, Mr. Resendez. I'm very, very busy.
Sharon? Thank you.
Yep.
This is your player's second obstacle. Whether through persuasion or simply recounting previous adventures, they need to communicate to the Inquiline that they are capable.
Listen to me.
Mr. Resendez, please.
I'm not writing a profile here. I'm working on something bigger.
Bigger? I don't know what that means.
I'm not supposed to tell you this, but I'm digging around for Spotlight.
Spotlight's on this?
Yeah, we're looking into it, but you gotta help me. You gotta let me talk to some of these victims, please. Please.
This is when your players give the informant a huge pull factor, and something this NPC has been sorely lacking: competent allies. The Inquiline has been working on their operation, largely alone, for far too long. If the party is capable and their goals align, this NPC might just give them a chance.
Come back tomorrow at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you.
This is when the players have truly gained an ally, and when the Inquiline will tell the party the true scope of this operation that they have been working on. An operation that, if successful, could be very beneficial to the party's goals.
But this time, I'm allowed to attach exhibits. Do you follow what I'm saying?
The sealed documents?
Yes, I can attach the sealed documents that I've gotten in discovery, Mr. Resendez. The same documents that your paper is currently suing for.
You're shitting me.
Why? No, I'm not shitting you. So, I pull out the 14 most damning docs and I attach them to my motion. And they prove everything. Everything. About the church, about the bishops, about law.
And it's all public. Because your motion to oppose Roger's motion is
public. Yeah, exactly. Now you're paying attention.
And so I could just walk into that courthouse right now and get those documents?
No, you cannot. Because the documents are not there.
But you just said they're public.
I know I did. But this is Boston. And the church does not want them to be found. So, they are not there.
And there, the informant has given the PCs the catch. The reason their operation has been largely unsuccessful thus far. And the main problem in the next arc.
Look, I'm not crazy. I'm not paranoid. I'm experienced. Check the docket. You'll see. They control everything. Everything. I gotta go back in.
Our final example is a neutral character, which I'll call the Spook. Deep Throat, as portrayed by Hal Holbrook in All the President's Men, wasn't really a spy, he worked for the FBI, but the archetype fits. I don't know any spies personally, but this character is at least in line with how they are often portrayed in fiction, so bear with me.
The story is dry. All we've got are pieces. We can't seem to figure out what the puzzle is supposed to look like.
Forget the myths that the media's created about the White House. The truth is, these are not very bright guys, and things got out of hand.
Let's think back to our first example, the disillusioned military officer. Even if they share this sentiment,
The truth is, these are not very bright guys.
their skepticism of the individuals in charge is made up for by their faith in the system. The Spook does not harbor any of that faith. To them, institutions and governments are just one revolution away from being a footnote in a history book. Governments are just groups of people, of which all are flawed and most are stupid. Once again, let's talk about the characters' push-pull factors. Just like our previous example, this one has plenty of push.
You can trust me, you know that.
Come on.
Can you tell me what you know?
You tell me what you know.
Hunt worked for Coulson at the White House. Hunt was investigating Kennedy and Chappaquiddick.
That should tell you a lot. What else?
Deep Throat, as portrayed in the film, is unwilling to volunteer any information that Woodward does not already have. Whether this is to appease his own conscience about leaking information, give himself plausible deniability, or some other reason, it doesn't matter. What matters to us is that these characters are in the information business. Spies are used to working alone, with little to no backup. If they are caught, the country they're attached to will hang them out to dry. If they don't know your PCs from Adam, the Spook is not going to cough up everything they know immediately. The give and take of information is how your party communicates to this NPC how capable they are. Because, for our spy, getting into bed with the wrong group of adventurers is a death sentence.
Hunt's come in from the cold. Supposedly he's got a lawyer with $25,000 in a brown paper bag.
Follow the money.
What do you mean? Where?
Oh, I can't tell you that.
But you could tell me that.
No, I have to do this my way. You tell me what you know, and I'll confirm. I'll keep you in the right direction if I can, but that's all. Just follow the money.
So the push-pull with this informant is very transactional. To get some information, they're going to have to give some. Eventually, if your PCs have come back to the Spook several times, they might get frustrated and demand the full story. They could also entreat them with a convincing plea, or present them with a time-sensitive situation.
You put the investigation back months.
Yes, we know that. And if we're wrong, we're resigning. were we wrong?
You'll have to find that out, won't you?
Listen, I'm tired of your chicken shit games. I don't want hints. I need to know what you know.
This is the critical moment when the NPC decides to go all in on the party or not. A nice pregnant pause can work wonders in this situation. I know not every DM is an actor, but one thing we can all do is to pause and take a slow look around the table before answering.
It was a Halderman operation. The whole business was run by Halderman, the money, everything.
When the spook decides to tell the party everything they know, they are putting their lives in the player's hands. It can be appropriate to tell this to your party in as many words.
Get out your notebook. There's more. Your lives are in danger.
Now we need to talk about how to implement these informants into our games, because we as DMs cannot pace the scenes involving these characters the way they're paced in a movie. In a book or a film, if a character is immediately unhelpful to the protagonist, the writer can just have that protagonist be persistent.
It's just like Saviano said, and get obedient.
You getting anywhere with him?
More victims?
More victims. You can't empty his pocket.
I'll get to him. I just need more time.
Come on, Mike. You gotta get him.
I'll get him.
But if an NPC in your game is totally unhelpful, your players might interpret that as you, the DM, telling them to look somewhere else. A situation like this is where we can utilize a little bit of DM sleight of hand. The protagonists, convinced they've gotten all they're going to get, start to leave. When they're halfway out the door, they hear the informant say,
Come back tomorrow 9:30 a.m.
Or you could give your players a freebie, a small morsel of information that lets them know that this NPC is knowledgeable, but will require a little more work.
Did you know that they tried to bring me up before the Massachusetts Board of Bar Overseers 3 times? They're watching me very closely.
The church?
Yeah, the church. Yeah. They'd like to get me disbarred. In fact, put that away. Put it away.
Sure.
I don't want you recording this in any way, shape, or form. Not on paper, not on tape, nothing. Sure. In fact, I probably shouldn't even be speaking to you. So.
Or finally, the most genre-typical thing to do is to give your players a side quest, or maybe a vague clue that ends up being incredibly enlightening.
Just follow the money.
It is important to not let the PCs leave an interaction with the informant without at least a little bit of progress. Remember, even if an interaction with an NPC seems unhelpful, it should never be a waste of time. Thanks for watching, everybody. That's the video on Informants. Got another world building video coming out pretty soon. If you want to support me, you can do all the normal stuff down at the bottom, or you can head over to the DM's Guild and check out Principles of Shamanism. See ya.